Yes, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Xiomara Enriquez. I'm the Leadership Programs Officer supporting the Global Fellows Network. It's great to see some familiar faces. Good to see you all. I hope you are having a great summer and thank you for joining us today. Um, this is a session where we are inviting one of our partners in the leadership field, um, leadership learning community, and we're very thankful for this series of different coffee chats and conversations that they're going to be hosting for the Global Fellows Network. I'm going to introduce you to Nikki. She is the co-executive director of the Leadership Learning Community, as we refer as LLC. And then I'm also going to high level introduce Erica Stalling. She's also a co-executive director. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to pass it to Nikki because she's going to do a much better job at introducing the rest of the team that's here hosting this conversation. So please join me in welcoming with hearts and emojis and claps and however you want to decide, welcoming them into this conversation so that they can host the time with all of us. Thank you, Nikki.
Hi everyone. I just learned how to do all these emojis, or just I guess I just updated my Zoom account. So this is so fun. My name is Nikki Din. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm in California actually. I'm typically based in Ohlone Land in Oakland, California, but today I'm in SoCal. I'm also here with another leader at the Leadership Learning Community, Iman Mills Gordon. Iman, do you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Iman Mills Gordon, the Director of Liberatory Programs at LLC. I am on Ohlone Land, and it's hot today, and I'm happy to be here with all of y'all.
And Iman, when you get a chance, maybe we can move the slide to slide 6. While you do that, I'm going to ask Erica to also come off mute and introduce herself.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Erica Stallings. I use she, her pronouns. I am Nikki Den's partner in crime, co-ED here at the Leadership Learning Community, and I am on Lenape land in Queens, New York.
Awesome. And just because Xiomara kicked us off, I just wanted to give a little bit more context on what LLC is, who we are. We are an organization that works specifically with leaders, and it is such a privilege for us to be here today with the Global Fellows Network. We have heard so much great things about you through the Kellogg Partners. And just to give you a little bit of who we are, we work towards uh, sharing a journey with leaders towards collective liberation. And one of the ways we frame this out, one of the ways it looks to us is that, yes, we want leaders to be systems change makers. We want leaders to work within the sphere. And we also want to remind and affirm leaders to be in your existence, that your time here, your work and efforts here isn't just about fixing systems. It's also about the beauty, the love, the art, the care that you have for this world. It's about your existence and your leisure and your family and your community as well. So when we talk about liberation, when we talk about collective liberation, when we talk about liberatory leadership, it is towards this direction of also acknowledging that our existence are part of the process. Then to acknowledge it and to seep in our beauty is part of the process. All right, we're going to go back now to share a little bit of some first steps that we'd love to share with you, which is land acknowledgements. I'm grateful for this practice with GFN to acknowledge the land we're on. This is a practice to me that acknowledges colonialism, that acknowledges the original land caretakers. It's a practice of acknowledging people and the history of our lands. So it's not just a space-based acknowledgement, it is actually a people-based acknowledgement. The app that we use to find native lands in Northern California is nativelands.ca. This app has expanded to a more global presence, so we'll offer that app here. And if you do know where your land is right now, we'd like to ask you to put it in the chat. For some folks, it might just be the original bearers of your land may be your community. For others, it might be an indigenous community. Thank you. Thank you for modeling, Xiomara. And as we are writing down and acknowledging the land that we're on, I'd just like to give us a moment to give gratitude to the folks that have come before us, that tended to the land, cared for the people, for the cultures, and the leadership that they've also envisioned for this world. And as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and move us to previewing the agenda for today. And Iman, I'm so grateful because our slide deck is out of order and you're really going with the flow to get us there. This is what the flow of today will look like for our coffee chat. Our coffee chats are a space for us to build connection with each other, to spend time to reflect, especially on topics that we don't often have space to reflect on. It's also a time for us to build and share, a values-aligned path forward. And so we started with interpretation guidelines. We are currently in the welcome. We will be sharing LOC's learning about multi-generational workforces. After that, we're going to put you right into breakout spaces so you can discuss with each other. What does it mean to you to have a growing population and working with many, many other people from different generations? We'll do share backs in a larger space. And if we have time, we'll go back to deepen our conversations with another breakout room. How does that sound? You have thumbs up. Anybody have ideas for amendments or like, oh, I really want to make sure, I came to here and I expected something. I really want to make sure that happens. If you do, I welcome you to unmute and kind of speak it into existence. We are happy to facilitate towards where your interests are as well. Thumbs up. Does this look like a good agenda to start with? All right. Okay, I'm gonna ask that we go to conscious relationship agreements. So one thing that LOC typically asks for folks when they join our call is to be in relationship with us. And conscious relationship agreements is one way to frame it up. This is a learning from an organization called Coaching for Healing, Justice, and Liberation. And some of the conscious relationship agreements that we offer for you today is that in this space, we'd love for you to make space and take space. And we ask that you are aware of your identities and the privilege they hold and use that to balance your participation. We also ask you to listen for understanding, not necessarily for agreement. But in this space, we have a chance to slow down and kind of listen, like, where are they coming from? Number 3 is about confidentiality. What's learned here leaves here. That is that if there is a lesson that you heard, please take it with you. But don't say who said what, right? So if what's said here stays here, and that means like if somebody brings up something about their own spaces or something personal, that you leave their identity anonymous so that they can be the bearers of their story and not somebody else. I also like you to trust your intention and own your impact. You're here with intention of learning, just like us. And that's a great intention. And sometimes in our learnings, we might have a negative impact on somebody else. We want to make sure that we can acknowledge those spaces, that it doesn't mean somebody's right or wrong. Like I said, it's about trying to understand each other, but also acknowledging when our impacts might be great on somebody else. We also ask you to practice being a witness to the transformation of others and yourself during the course of our time together. And lastly, remember gratitude and experience joy while you're here. All right, with that said, if you have any questions about any of these conscious relationship agreements, I'd love to invite you to ask that question to us. You can unmute. If you're okay with them, I'd like you to pick one and maybe put it in the chat. What is one you'd like to be particularly mindful of for today? Wonderful. All right, here we go. We're going to get into framing up this issue and sharing with you a little bit more about LLC's learning on multi-generational workforces. Sometimes this conversation for us is framed up as intergenerational conflict. So we have been in conversation, we have been doing research on multi-generational workforces, and one of the reasons why is because there are so many more people entering the workforce and working together than ever. And I wanted to start by sharing some data with you. So this is data from the UN, and it shows the trajectory of how many people are on Earth. And, you know, I'm somebody who was born and lived in the 80s. And so when I was born, there were about 5 million people on Earth. And in my lifespan, if you look, you know, to 100 years out, we are predicting that there will be 10 million people on Earth. And then the graph to the right shares the age range of those people who make up the 10 million that we are projecting to be here by 2080. And it will be an aging population. It'll be older. People are living longer. There will be some plateauing of the younger generations as the population, we believe, will plateau. That's on a global basis, and these are estimates. And I also wanted to share with you what it looks like in like a map, like where are the ages, you know, where are the population differences in a global sense. This is a map of the population that is from 0 to 14 years old. And I believe this is from 2022. So we can see the majority of a younger population in the world is based in Africa, right, currently. And you can kind of see where some of the other younger generations will be at. I'm going to now show you 15 to 64-year-olds. Let me just refresh to make sure the key is refreshed. So you can see here, this is the working population right now. This is 15 to 64 years old. When you see this map, you can see the dark colors where, you know, over 69%, for example, the working class, like working age group, are in areas that produce, right? This might look familiar to you. These are where a lot of products are getting manufactured these days. And then lastly, I can show you the population of 65 and older. And you can see where the predominant population that are older lives. It's in Europe and Canada. You can kind of see why some of the policies look like the way they do in the world right now. I'm going to stop sharing. Some of LLC's learning, and most of our learnings, I'll preface, is based on conversations with folks who live in the United States. So where we are based, we have heard events like World War II, access to the internet, the onset of social media and artificial intelligence have truly shaped generational cultures and generational differences. But what we do know is no matter where you are in the world, you will have a multi-generational workforce in front of you, right? This is the reality for us that we share. How that reality shapes up, like, do you have a larger aging population or do you have a larger younger population? Now there might be some differences there. From what we're hearing is that navigating work across generations is complex. It's not inherently problematic though. What seems to be problematic is that we do not have the time needed to tend to relationships and the culture and work and network spaces to pay attention, right, to these relationships and how to navigate differences that we're seeing. I'm curious. Oh, I didn't mean billion, Marcel. Thank you for saying that. We have 6 strategies for fostering positive intergenerational relationships based on our research and discussions. And so I'll share them with you now. First, we believe you should define the who, right? So wherever you're based, you can see from the data, multi-generational workforces will have a different flavor and in different communities. So in the US, there will be a larger, older baby boomer generation and a smaller, younger generation, like what we call Generation Alpha. And so our question to you is, how are the generations defined where you live and with whom you work with? The next learning we have is sources of wisdom. Knowledge does not always have to flow from the top down. With a growing population, we actually must interrogate and look towards distributed ways to think about wisdom and power. So wisdom and power we must invite it to come from different spaces, from younger generations, not only just from the top down. And so one strategy is to adopt a stance that our unique knowledge can complement each other to improve our approach and final product. And it does not have to inherently have to conflict with each other. So as you are weaving, as you are making room for strategy and changes and action, having that value that actually we need each other's viewpoints from every generation to complement each other is a great value to hold. And speaking of conflict, we think that conflict is normal. You're not meant to agree with everyone, but as leaders, you can be skilled in navigating conflict. And some people call this generative conflict. For LOC, we frame it as mending. And I just want to share a resource in our previous webinars that we've done called a mending series, and I'll put it in the chat. And in that mending series, we talked about many different ways to think about conflict, contextualize it, but also start working on it. And the key starting point for all of our conflict work with all of the speakers that we spoke to over that, the 5 or 6 sessions that we had, shared that we had to start with ourselves. We had to give ourselves a chance to reflect on what our values were and how we were perceiving a situation in front of us. The next learning we've had in talking about multi-generational workforces is we need to avoid generalizations. It's been a shortcut that many people have adopted, even people who are working towards race equity or working towards liberation, and yet we will adopt a shortcut that says millennials, they're lazy. It's just like the whole working class under 40 in the US are lazy, and we just have adopted a stereotype like that. And I've been in meetings where people have said that, and I had to be like, I actually was born in that age range, you're talking about me, and that was so offensive. So we need to stop generalizing. We need to stop, stereotyping. It's helpful to understand trends and behaviors. It's helpful to know what major events have shaped, a certain age group. It does not need to happen where you also generalize the person you're working with. And so we say you have to spend time to be present with who you are working with to understand where they're coming from. And that is just a must-have. I said before, for our conflict series, you have to know yourself. I'll say it again for this intergenerational work. Not only do you have to spend time to understand where other people are coming from, you have to know yourself as well. What are your values, right? What's coming up for you? Do you want to work in a multi-generational workspace? Is there something triggering for it? And why did that come about? And lastly, we invite you to adopt a stance of curiosity. This is an invitation to lean into differences as opposed to avoiding it. You can create space to intentionally talk about differences. You can remain curious to better understand opportunities and connections and alignment. I'm speaking to you without telling you some of the negative things that have come up, and yet I'm seeing a lot of heads nods, right? Because I think we're filling in that we have all had the experience of what it means to think of another generation. So I appreciate that you've listened to some of these some context. I'm going to pass it over to Iman to share a little bit about how we might break you up into breakout rooms right now.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Nikki. We are about to head into breakout spaces, and in that space, we will have some questions that you all can toss around and answer, but we're also hoping that's a space for you all to connect with each other and to respond to what you've just heard from Nikki, as well as share just some of your experiences with intergenerational leadership. And so Nikki is creating the breakout spaces now. We're going to have the folks who are Spanish speakers in one room together. Our Portuguese speakers will stay in the main room with our Portuguese interpreter. And then we'll have the other rooms, and it'll be 4 to 5 folks for each group. And you'll have about 14 minutes to speak with each other. I think we'll end up putting these questions in the chat. Nikki, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody identifies as a Portuguese speaker, and if you could share in the chat. Or maybe I'll invite everybody to write what language is your preferred language in the chat. Yeah, I don't think we have any Portuguese speakers right now either, Carmen. Thank you for verifying that.
Great, thank you.
All right, so we'll make sure everybody goes to a breakout room.
Awesome, thank you. So in that space, we will put these questions in the chat as well so that you all can see it. But we're going to ask that you share your name, the land that you're on, your affiliation, how generations are defined where you are. We, as Nikki mentioned, we know we all have a different way of doing that based on what's happened in our own geography. So just touching on how that shows up where you live. And then if there are any generalizations you have about those different generations, that you have space to share that with each other as well. Bring up what's similar, what's different, and again, have some space to just kind of process what you heard from Nikki as well as about some of the learnings that we've had in our conversations. Are there any questions on that? Thank you, Nikki. And we'll share it again as you all go to your breakout spaces. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Nikki, I just decided to stay. Oh, did you see my message?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Were you able to go to the breakout space?
I got to the breakout and then I got pulled back into the main.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. You want to see?
But Nikki, I was thinking, I feel like the 6 strategies, I was trying to take notes, and I wonder if people were trying to take notes. I feel like maybe you don't, I was hoping that you had a slide. So I don't know if you want to reshare them on the chat so that people have them.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I can put them in the slide as well. We just wanted to frame it up so folks can actually have their own discussion, but maybe afterwards I'll put in the slide, or we'll make sure it's highlighted.
Yeah, I was thinking if not at the, in the chat will be good so that people have them.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll try to go back again and see if it pulls me. Mm,
Yeah,
I
we
don't
did some
know.
drop-offs. Yeah. I'm particularly trying to pay attention to who the Spanish speakers are.
Zio, I'm gonna put you in one and then move you into a different one. So, oh, there we go. Okay, she's good.
Yep. Enrique, I'm glad you're taking a break. Yeah. Oh, you're still back here.
I think either page, because I'm a host with the interpretation, with the translation, it's pulling me back again.
Okay, I'll stop.
Mhm.
There you go. Let's try it again. Zio, can you press the breakout rooms button at the bottom?
Mhm.
Okay, try it that way.
I've never had that happen before, where like it automatically pulled you out when you got in.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that does that. All right, let me.
I know. I'm sorry. I know I cut everybody off mid-sentence. We are going to have room for you to go back into the same breakout spaces again to deepen these conversations. But right now, I wanted to invite you back. Iman, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Great, Nikki, you're so right. We didn't even realize time had gone so fast. We saw that 1 minute and we were like, oh my goodness, okay, wrap it up. And still got cut off mid-sentence. So as it goes, as it goes. So happy for the next space to go deeper. But yeah, I would love to hear from the group. We had some rich conversation in my group. Yeah, sorry, Gary. We had some rich conversation in my group. Would love to hear from you all about any ahas or affirmations or just anything that was shared. And yeah, go ahead.
I'll help out by breaking the ice. No one wants to be the first person to come back from the small group and share back sometimes. In our group, we really talked about like just the beauty of being in multi-generational spaces and like what can be learned from the generations that came before, but also the energy of the generations that may come after you. And then also really being aware of the, needs that different generations have. And so for the folks who were in spaces or locations that had larger young populations, like the needs of those populations, access to electricity so they can go to school, that's a primary need, which might be different from sort of like health-based needs of like older folks. It was so that was kind of some of the things that we talked about, like the balance of both like the gifts that come from different generations, but also balancing out and looking at the different needs.
Thank you, Erica. That resonates a lot. Any others?
I'll share. Again, Curtis Jones, pleasure to meet you. And I'm saying hello to my friend Dana, who I've known for several years as one of my fellows. I'm here in Africa, in Uganda, doing work on energy. And we're realizing how the impact of the lack of energy is make a major difference in certain communities or certain regions of how they are able to learn and the impediments to learning. Many of the schools lack the necessary equipment compared to schools in the US where everyone's on computer and they're moving through their curriculums. I do know that I see a greater emphasis on mathematics and learning and children that want to go to school and want to learn because their parents are paying. And there is a great expectation for success at every level in the communities that I'm seeing once a child goes to school, that they're spending inordinate amount of time passing their tests and proving to their family that they have value. So it's interesting between the values that I've seen in the US, where we've got a lot of different things with gangs and different cultures and everybody coming together in a hodgepodge of trying to deal with administrative learning versus natural learning of what they're good at and what they feel confident in. So it's quite a difference, but I believe that the strategies that are being discussed here and some of the things that you're teaching over the years will make a difference, but there is a need to consider the difficulties of engaging in a community when you want to bring in education. As I was mentioning, I've got one country I'm working in the DRC, where there is only 4,000 students plus that are being able to attend school when there's 106,000 people that need to be in school. So it really creates a question of who gets to go, who gets to learn, and then what do they bring back to their communities. Many of them don't have lights, so therefore learning becomes difficult in the evening. So I'll just share that. It's part of my experience that I'm dealing with now and trying to make a difference here in Africa. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. Really appreciate your bringing in the overlay of the contrasting experiences and the global perspective. Yeah, it's awesome. Any others?
Yeah, me. May I take the... Yes? Okay. I will speak in Spanish. So, nosotras hablamos sobre el concepto de justicia intergeneracional, algo que tiene que ver con el desarrollo sustentable y cómo ahora estamos viviendo los efectos, por ejemplo, ¿no? Del cambio climático. Y cómo las generaciones de antes, quizás sin saberlo, quizás sabiéndolo y no importándole, no vamos a discutir eso ahora, han dejado la situación mundial crítica. Y cómo lidiar con eso, ¿no? Cómo saber que se pueden hacer cosas, pero que incluso cuando lo haces tú en tu día a día, tal vez no puedas ver resultados. Cómo comunicar esa esperanza, pero también esa desesperanza a las generaciones a nuestra edad, ¿no? De nuestros 30, 40 y a las más jóvenes. Eso también es importante. Como Carmen nos comentaba que en un taller, en una consultoría de comunicación intergeneracional, les comentaban que no intentaran cambiar la percepción de las personas de 50 años en adelante porque no iba a cambiar, que era mejor dirigir los esfuerzos a las generaciones más jóvenes. Entonces también esta brecha de cómo las personas más grandes, como dice el dicho, perro viejo no aprende nuevos trucos. Entonces, justamente eso, cómo lidiar con estas también barreras de, no creo que sean todas las personas, pero si hacemos como una comparación, podría ser como la mayoría de las personas de mayores de 50 años no van a cambiar sus hábitos, sus conductas, sus percepciones, y son ahora, por el envejecimiento de la población, pues son una población muy importante. Entonces, ¿cómo vamos a llegar a esa población? Y por otro lado, también hablábamos de cómo nosotras que estamos en esta, digamos, sándwich, en esta generación sándwich entre los más envejecidos, pero también los más jóvenes, que tenemos estas diferencias entre cómo tratar a los de arriba, pero también cómo tratar a los de abajo, que a veces no sentimos que nos entiendan los de arriba y tenemos que tratarlos de cierta manera y comunicar mensajes y ser muy pacientes y tener como muy claras las cosas y cachar las ideas de esas personas porque son como dispersas y así, y a la vez como la falta de rigor o de ciertas conductas que nosotras consideramos como profesionales y que las generaciones más jóvenes no lo ven como nosotras, ¿no? Como cuidados parentales no es lo mismo que cuidar a una mascota, ¿no? Por ejemplo. Y hay personas que las ponen como al mismo nivel, ¿no? Que no digo que esté mal, simplemente en un entorno laboral tal vez no es lo mismo cuidar a tu gato que cuidar a tu hijo, ¿no? Entonces, entonces tener como estas diferencias y cómo también lidiar con estos roles de poder que al final tenemos en las jerarquías de trabajo y decir, ok, si vas a faltar por cuidar a tu gato, y el trabajo que pasa, ¿no? O sea, como este tipo de cuestiones, como también alinearlas sin llegar a ser un liderazgo impositivo, tal vez un liderazgo más conciliador, pero que al final sentimos que no hablamos el mismo idioma, no tenemos las mismas prioridades. Es difícil conciliar estar como en esa generación sándwich. Cambio.
Thank you. A lot of that is right on with what we're hearing in lots of different spaces in terms of those same generalizations, the rigidness, and how we get to professionalizing and all of that. So it makes total sense. Also, in English, we use that same saying, "Oh, can't teach an old dog new tricks," for sure. So yeah, absolutely. Any responses to what you've heard or more from your small groups that folks want to bring into this space?
I would just say that from a purely technical point of view, if I didn't listen to people younger than me, given my technical limitations, I would really be in bad shape. I mean, there are just things that they are so far advanced in terms of their knowledge, say, of robotics or artificial intelligence that, I mean, I can't, I'm reading at a first grade level and they're in college.
We found out in our group that some generalizations in terms of how age is correlated to wisdom in different places, where then the people don't listen to younger generations because there's this idea that even in leadership, you have to wait your turn because you're still young. You need to listen to your elders. So I thought that was an African thing from my neighborhood, but it does cut across, and the tensions may not be obvious, but they keep bubbling under, and at some point they are explosions.
Yes, yes. I had to smile at Erica's comment in the chat. Do you want to say more about that, Erica?
Yeah, I just think about us as like, you know, as a now a middle-aged puppy, and being able to, you know, see, I think I shared this on the webinar that Nikki linked to earlier, that, you know, as I have reached middle age, when I think about elders, I kind of think about older Erica and what I wish for her. And when I'm in spaces with younger people, I also have the lens of younger Erica, new to the workforce, and like what that experience was and like what I wish I had and the support I wish I had. And so for me, that is a way of holding both generations with empathy. And, you know, I also shared that some of the most, like Alexandra is the youngest person on LLC staff and is also one of the most responsible people on LLC staff. And the oldest person on LLC staff is also one of the most radical people on LLC staff. So if we were beholden to generational assumptions and generalizations, then we would be missing out on all of the gifts that those folks bring to LLC staff. And so my generalization is that my middle-agedness offers me the opportunity to see both of those things. And so that's just something that I think we middle-aged dogs might be able to offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Yes, yes, yes. We are going to deepen our conversation, and I'm going to hand it off to Nikki so that she can set us up to do that. Thank you all for sharing your reflections.
Oh, I'm so grateful. And some of the nuance of this conversation reminds me of, the strategies we set up. Xiomara, you had a great suggestion. So I put those 6 strategies I named earlier in the slide deck. We'll get it translated into Spanish as well. But we were going to put you back into breakout rooms, the same breakout rooms, so you can continue your conversations. I'd like to layer on 2 more questions to you based on this conversation. And the 2 questions and prompts I have for you are, I'll put in the chat. What gifts have you received from other generations? And then what kind of mindset, leadership stance, or tools do you use to work with a diverse workforce? Yeah. All right, I'm going to give you all 10 minutes and open up the rooms again. See you in a bit. Maybe I can invite you to share out in the larger group, maybe even finish a conversation if you need to finish a sentence or 2 in this big space. We can make some room for that now. And if anybody is interested in going first, I'll open up to you. If not, also Dana and I had nominated Alexandra to kick off the conversations. How was it?
It was really good. We talked a little bit about our gifts, and then we had one of our members post a question about like engaging like younger leaders and younger just people. And my offerings, I think I told them something that we do at LLC, which is like holding reflection spaces, and that has really helped me kind of like find my voice and learn from everybody in the team, and have people that I can work with or go through ideas that are happening in the world, and things like just process things that are happening in the world. And the other thing that has worked, at least for me, is just really doing like inner work. And that in itself has like everybody has a point in their life where they will realize like I need to do a lot of inner work to just learn about the world and process my time and how I want to show up. But it does help that I do have a really good team at LLC that will be like, hey, I read this and thought this was cool. Let me share it with you. Or, hey, like this is a webinar and why don't you join? So just like a sharing of resources could help, has helped me as a young person enter the space in my life, or like where I needed to focus more on my inner work. Yeah.
Sharing. Dana, Binkosi, anything to add? Yeah, all right. Anybody else would like to share some learnings about gifts, generational gifts, some learnings about mindsets or tools that are helpful?
Oh, this is Betty. I will say something. Richard, and unfortunately, he said he was going to have to leave, so I told him I would share this one. He thought that when we're talking about the gifts that we have, one of the best gifts we can give to the younger generation is respect, and the sense that for many of us elders, and both of us are, as we classify ourselves in the older category, that we tend to sort of dismiss oftentimes younger people as not having wisdom and not having the knowledge, except in those areas where we most need them, as he and I laughed about when we come to technology and some other kinds of things like that, where we have to bring them in to help us. But a sense of how do we convey to other people the sense of the tremendous talent pool that we have in young people, and that we bring a great deal of respect to that. And sort of, we talked about the opportunities to listen, and we weren't sure always, especially outside of our work environments, that there are opportunities for what you just mentioned in terms of sort of the listening process to young people. And we were thinking about whether there are ways that, we could figure out how to facilitate much more of that, because we think in that we come to understand and to be able to recognize the tremendous gifts that the younger generation and the ability to bring those together in ways. I actually think project work is one of the ways to get people together to work and solve issues in these intergenerational groups. Is one of the best ways I've seen of being able to help people come to both of an appreciation and understanding of the gifts we all bring to the table.
Thank you. Anybody else from Betty's group to layer on? Catherine, I know maybe Richard left.
And just as Betty was speaking, it brought a lot to mind. Group to fit in a certain box, and we try to process, make them fit our desire versus their learning. They have a need for growth, and it was like, represent what you want me to be. So as you're looking at me, you wanted me to be, and you want me to respond to you the way you want me to respond. But that isn't until we recognize that everyone's an individual and that we all come from different, then we are stuck with most people. It's important in marriage, important in life, and friends and association, even in assuming you look at a worker and you have certain expectations that you want to keep them in, that they were supposed to hire them. This is the way they were supposed to think. This is the way they act that way. You say, well, I don't know what's going on with Rebecca. I don't know what's going on. Place someone into our box. So the learning is that the young, and we need to let them use their experiences and hear by asking them and letting them have the opportunity to speak. Program with some young kids in a school, and when I went into the school, acting up, and everyone was moving around and they were very active, and I was, because I want to see how they work together as a team. Well, when the teacher came in, first telling him to sit down, to be quiet, but I didn't want that. I wanted to see who the leaders were, and I wanted the leader so that the bully became a part of the team and not an angry. Learn in the communication. If you watch people and you observe, allow them to be who. So I'll just leave that. It supported Betty's statement of, again, wisdom in the youth or any younger people. If you only want to hear what you comes out as wisdom, it will become out is that she didn't listen to me or they're not paying attention. So I'll stop there, and thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you, Curtis, for layering that on. Carmen, how about you?
Gracias, Vicky. Bueno, nuestra conversación fue muy interesante con Lucía y Xiomara y creo que algo que me hizo reflexionar mucho y en lo que platicamos un poco fue que compartimos algunas experiencias de trabajo en grupos intergeneracionales. Personalmente compartí una en la que reflexionaba sobre lecciones aprendidas y cosas que pudieron haber sido mejor, ¿no? Como no pensar en estas generalizaciones y estos estigmas y en cómo haber podido hacer un puente de comunicación más eficiente, que al final el resultado de este grupo fue que no se permitió un relevo generacional y ahora es un grupo que enfrenta problemas para trabajar, ¿no? Y porque está compuesto de puras personas mayores que ya difícilmente pueden conectar con personas más jóvenes. Quiero decir, la misión, el propósito del grupo. Y al contrario de esto, bueno, eso es un regalo también, ¿no? Cómo aprendemos de estas experiencias y las capitalizamos, ¿no? No solo de lo difícil que pudo haber sido convivir con unas y otras generaciones, sino cuáles pueden ser aprendizajes que nosotras adoptemos para en otros espacios sí poder construir estos puentes de comunicación y de inclusión. Y por otro lado, reflexionábamos sobre nuestro propio equipo de la red en la Fundación Kellogg, que es un equipo intergeneracional en el que personalmente, que soy de las miembros, me voy a nombrar de las miembros jóvenes, me he beneficiado mucho, ¿no? De la experiencia, del aprendizaje, pero en verdad porque hay como una gran comunicación, ¿no? Hay como un gran respeto al trabajo, al expertise, a las vivencias, digamos, como al conocimiento que todas en el equipo podemos traer a la mesa. Y creo que eso lo hace un equipo intergeneracional muy rico, ¿no? Y muy exitoso, quiero pensar, eso lo evaluarán las y los fellows, pero creo que muy exitoso en su trabajo también, ¿no?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm curious, if anybody else would like to share before we start closing the space up. Rebecca, I've seen you lean in so many times. I'm like waiting for you.
Nothing more to add. I accomplished my number 2 goal. I was able to learn and glean. And so I'm excited that you gave us those goals in the beginning and I saw it come to fruition. So thank you everyone for your sharing.
Thank you. Well, what we heard today was that there is the conversations we had. There is need for more of these conversations, perhaps. I'm so grateful for the Kellogg team for identifying intergenerational conflict and multi-generational workforces as a topic for us to just have a coffee chat about, right? Stop and just kind of like reflect on, give ourselves some space to really think some things through. We don't often have that kind of space in our work. I'm interested in kind of closing us out with some reflection. So if you have a piece of paper or if you'd like to jot notes on your phone or your computer, the first reflection I have for you to jot down is, will you offer gratitude to your past self, your younger self, wherever that may be? Will you offer yourself some gratitude? Now, one more minute. Get a good gratitude. You've done so much. You've been to places. You've seen some things, unfortunately, fortunately. All right. Next, will you, to yourself, writing down or somewhere else, will you offer a wish to your future, your older self? Yeah. You're elder now, you're gonna be elder. Next. All right. Ready? So for this last prompt, I want you to type it in the chat, but don't press send yet. We'll press send at the same time. And the last prompt is, will you offer a gift to your current self? And so please type it in the chat right now. I'll do the same. It could be based on the conversation today. It could be based on anything you have a want for. A gift for yourself for today. And if you're ready, I'll invite everybody to press send right now. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be able to hold space with you all. I'm putting back in the chat the slide deck for today, which also includes upcoming coffee chats. We're going to be hosting a few more of these sessions on different topics. The next one will be on July 10th on collective leadership. I believe the sign up link is already out. And we'll also be around July 17th on emerging leadership challenges. What does it mean to be a leader today? There's a lot to unpack there. We'll also be around at the end of July on navigating conflict. So more specifically, we'll get into some of our learnings from our mending series and our generative conflict work. And we would love to invite in your wisdom and knowledge there too. And lastly, we're going to end on August 6th on the topic of healing. I'm going to pass it over to the Kellogg team now for their closing and thank yous as well.
Sure, thank you, Nikki. Please join me in welcome and thanking Nikki, Erica, Iman, Alexandra, and you know, with a round of applause, with hearts, with emojis, with however you prefer. Just thank them for this conversation, for the prompts, and allowing to create this space for connection. We hope, again, we're very thankful that you join us on the summer of 2024. I know that there's a lot of other things you could be busy, but the fact that you join us today, the fact that you were able to be in relationship and connection with one another, learning from this space, and taking in some of the lessons learned from one another, I think that's the main goal of this coffee chats, to create connection, collaboration, and action. The GFN team just want to thank you, and encourage you to reflect on some of those prompts, especially this closing prompts, but reflect on some of the lessons learned, some of the comments that you heard during the breakouts. And we encourage you to join us in our next session with LLC, and hope you have a great rest of your summer. Hope to see you soon in a couple of weeks. Thank you,
Enrique, for the
Thank
great
you.
interpretation, and Xiomara, you in the chats as well. Thank you for the interpretation, translation support. Have a great day.
thank you. Great to see
Thank you
everyone.
all.
See you
Have a
again.
Thank you,
great evening.
everyone.
Gracias. Good to see you all.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.